Welcome to the final session of our Common Application series. So I'm really thrilled to now really wrap up agenda that we had started a month back. We had initially thought that we will start with US applications. We will give you in detail understanding of the common application itself, and also to give you an understanding of the various different platforms that exist, right? So you do have the platforms from UCs, the UTs, Universities of California, and Universities of Texas and Massachusetts Institute of Technology. These three institutes do have their own systems. Georgetown is also another example. And during our whole sessions that we kept on running, right from the SAT section of admission of academics to your 10 activities or the 20 activities of your UCs, and then moving on to your personal statement, we had looked at the different kind of platforms that they exist. In today's session, we'll be focusing on now the last two essential components which often make it a make or break situation within the application: the letters of recommendations and the supplementary essays, along with a strategic look at the transition that's required in your really most important 2 years of high school, grade 11 and grade 12. We'll explore how to navigate the crucial aspects of the LORs, how to secure a strong recommendation, what to do if you're unsure about whom to ask, and how to ensure that your recommendations really go on to reflect the best kind of application that you could put forth. Then we'll also look into supplementary essays, one of the most critical parts of your application, where you get the chance to truly showcase who you are beyond your grades, beyond the test scores, and how do you really would come across and make a difference and would join the pool of students in the college that you're typically applying for. Lastly, as I've said, we'll discuss the grade 11 to 12 timeline as well, ensuring that you're fully prepared for the year ahead, staying on track, and really maximizing your potential in all areas, be it academics, extracurriculars, and the preparations of the application itself for all of those students who are now, moving into grade 12. So let's get started and ensure that by the end of this series, which is the end of today, you'd really be ready to submit your applications that truly reflect your potential. Before we move into the whole aspect of just 1 second. Before we move into the whole aspect of admissions, and we look into the whole aspect of your letters of recommendations, to also looking at at your essays, we just give you an understanding of the host today, the organization that is conducting the session itself. Let's Unbound. So Let's Unbound began with a focus on skill building, empowering elementary and middle school students with STEM, life skills, and mentorship. Now, as these students progress to high school, they started seeking out for college admissions guidance, and that's where we listen. We evolved our services to seamlessly integrate storytelling through applications into our already well-established mentoring programs. By really combining the personalized learning, skill development, and strategic admission support, now we really guide students from their early academic years to straight into your top global universities. Today, we have impacted more than 4,000 students, ranging across 25 countries, and have delivered more than 125,000 hours of expert mentoring. Our commitment to excellence has earned us a 4.9 over a 5 global rating. We have also partnered with some esteemed organizations such as Harvard Students Agencies, the Arizona State University, Prep Digital, ensuring that the students receive a world-class educational experience. So at Let's Unbound, we don't just prepare students for exams or admissions or colleges, we go on to prepare them for life. Before we move into my own introduction, I also just would like to quickly introduce the visionaries behind the whole aspect, Amol and Nishant. Amol comes with a pedigree of experience when it comes into entrepreneurship and also being an education visionary. He has experience with Tata and Exceed, India's largest school edtech platform. Amol has actually helped scale impactful educational solutions across 2,000 schools in 6 countries, impacting more than 250,000 students. He's known for his ability to blend business thinking, on-ground school realities, and has been really instrumental in helping startups from IIT Bombay and beyond succeed in the educational space. On the right, you'll see Professor Nishant, a mentor, educator, and really the brains behind many of the learning pathways that are constantly used by our students on our platform. Now, with more than 14 years of experience across academy and industry, he has counseled more than 1,000 students and has designed curriculum solutions right from K-12 to executive MBA programs. He's an alumnus of SP Jain, a top-rated teacher, and a proud mentor of change under Atal Innovation Mission Niti Aayog. Together, their combined experience and vision have really shaped the approach we bring into college admissions and counseling, personalized, practical, and future ready. Now, quickly just moving across to my own introduction. So I am Faraz, as I had initially introduced. My own experience comes largely within counseling and consultancy, spread across industries as edtech and investments. I have worked with brands as Jaguar Land Rover, Citibank, Standard Charter, and have also been part with the organization as Crimson and Added Education when they had initially started across in India itself. Now, moving across to the actual conversation at hand, what are the various things that we'll be discussing at? Before we move into our own conversation for today, I just want to quickly run you through with the various things that we had initially, discussed across and have already gone into quite some detail about. Right. So before we move into the application part and what are the, different components, just to again revise back on what are university admissions officers looking from specifically within USA, it is a well lopsided profile. Now, a well lopsided profile sometimes does get confused when it is put across by various different counselors. The normal narrative that has been out there that these admission officers are looking for well-rounded students, which is not the right way of putting this across. The right terminology or the right way to vision a well-lopsided profile is to really see the letter T, where you've got, a very strong set of activities in which you could show a good amount of time investment, you could show a good amount of competitiveness level, and you could really show that is your dedication area. Along with that, you have got this horizontal, stroke as well, in which you're only trying to showcase the participation that you may have in various different areas. So that's where that well lopsided profile comes across, differing from how you'd have normally heard, different people really talk about in terms of a well-rounded profile. A well-rounded profile really talks about every activity being of the same level, while on the contrary, the reality is they're looking for focus areas and they're looking for participation areas. Everything cannot be of that same level. Now, one of those very important things to understand about the US system before we move on to the platform in terms of common application is the part that declaration of majors is not mandatory. Approximately 30 to 50% students every year do not end up declaring their majors in the application. So, from a very intuitive way, as we all imagine about admissions, is if you're applying for computer sciences, majority of the things that you need to talk about are computer sciences, which doesn't hold true for America. Within America, what you really need to focus across on is how well can you define your profile in that vertical stroke. Why? Because imagine it from the admission officer's perspective. Out of 10 applications that he's looking at, five may not have the majors written. So he has no way of establishing that which work is in connection, which work is not in connection. And to keep the applications fair for all 10 kids, there's no kid who has any advantage of declaring computer sciences and showing work in computer sciences. You have the equal opportunity of getting admitted, even going undeclared and trying to show activities in whole different kind of areas. The primary concept that a student really needs to imbibe is what kind of narrative are you creating for yourself? What kind of personality are you creating? And how does that personality will eventually match onto the colleges? So at this level, understand it's not just about if you're studying computer science, then how well are you at computer science? It goes beyond. It's how well are you as a person and how well does your narrative matches the college's narrative. How do you explain all of this? That's when the platforms typically come across at. Now, the whole sessions that we had held were held on common application itself. But during my sessions, I always kept on stressing across on the differences that typically do lie between, let's say, a common application and a University California system, as it's called the UC system, and the Apply Texas system is largely for UT Austin and or your universities of Texas, a couple of few more of them. And do also remember that many of your UT applications can also be applied through the common application platform. MITs and Georgetown have their own also unique platforms. So in this session, this revision part of my session for today, I will also touch base on all of those aspects again. So the common application, as I was just saying, is just one of the platform would be using to apply to US colleges. And definitely it's the most popular one. It allows you applications up to 20 colleges all at once. However, not all top colleges, as I have said, are not through are through the Common App. The one that I'll be looking at, your UC system allows you nine applications. They've got nine undergraduation campuses, and you can apply to all nine at one go. Universities of Texas has got five campuses, so you can apply to as many through the Apply Texas. And I've just said you can also use the common application to get through with the UTs. MIT and Georgetown have, as I've said, their single applications to their own respective universities. Now, despite these differences, the core components of these applications are nearly identical with a little bit of differentiations here and there. So let's just try to decode in that first part. So that first part in terms of academics, largely same across platforms. The only one difference that I'll really point out in this area would be universities of California, where your SAT and ACT score is not required. Universities of California are still SAT blind, they're not SAT optional. So you will just not be submitting your SAT section to academics. Otherwise, what you're seeing on your screen as in terms of that first part, academics, it goes right across all colleges that you're applying. Just do keep in your mind that UCs are test blind. MIT, on the other side, would require you to submit your standardized tests. If you're going through the MIT system, make sure you've got your SAT and ACT looked at. UT Austin also does give you a little bit of flexibility. It's SAT optional, but I'd largely suggest have your SAT score ready at that specific aspect. Now, the second point that's very important, the extracurriculars. Let's dive into this part. This section allows you 10 activities to showcase beyond what you are in academics. So take this part as where your movie's trailer is just about to start. And this is where you're going to come out and say that there's some interest that I've got in academics, maybe let's say as courses, as competitions, as internships, as research papers, starting academic clubs. All of these activities are extracurriculars, academically oriented. An Olympiad, an academic activity, but an extracurricular, right? And AP at times it is under extracurriculars as well, but an academic extracurricular. If you do a research paper, again, we're under the same heading. Along with this, you've got a lot of non-academic activities. You can move into sports, music, internship. And one important thing that really does lie there is your community service, right? Community service is almost mandatory across all platforms. Mandatory across all students' profile. When you talk and look at things as, let's say, sports or music or fine arts or drama or theater, this all depends on what are the natural inclinations of the students. It's not mandatory to do everything. You really have to cherry pick the things that really define you in that perfect way. It's not just about going across and doing Trinity level grade 8 in guitar, but if that aspect doesn't define you as a personality, it really doesn't feature up here. So do remember, it's not about the level at only what you're competing at, but what does it really matter or really differentiate in you as a overall profile that would really count here. Now, on the other side, as I have said, that we'll be always talking about the other platforms. You see 20 activities. They are divided across into four categories very specifically. You've got a volunteering category, you've got a work experience category, you've got an academic programs, and then you've got extracurriculars. MIT, on the other hand, would be asking you only for your top four. But each activity would really give you a chance to go in deep. They give you 200 words per activity. Compare that difference with your Common App platform, you've got 150 characters. On the other application that I just like to put across, the UT system, it would be typically allowing you to also just upload your resume. So the most flexible way of putting across your extracurriculars does lie within UT. Otherwise, as I've just said, A common application, you can list up till 10. It's not minimum 10. You can list up till 10. With UCs, you can list up till 20. MIT, you have to list your top four. Austin, you put in your resume. Now, these figures, the 20s, the 10s, from an advisory from our side and the experience that we've had working with a lot of students, we do suggest try to get them all filled up. If you're given the opportunity to talk about 10 different activities, be very sure that your top applicants that you're competing with at top institutes do have 10 activities. So it's really the whole aspect of fear of missing out if you don't really, have filled up all of those 10 activities. So for the crowd that has joined me across, FOMO, I'm sure all of you would be quite, accustomed to. So FOMO is a very important thing that you need to think across when you're thinking, should I list 10? Should I list 20? Just don't miss out. Now, going on to the third aspect of this column, which comes across as your essays. So you've got one essay, which is also called the personal statement. And at the same time, if you're going through the common application system, it is called the common app essay, right? So while I'll anyways call this section the personal statement section, for common application, you'd be writing a 650 word essay, and it's also called the common app essay itself. UC on the other side has its own version, which they call it as your personal insight questions. You have to select four questions to typically answer with 350 words each. MIT, on the other side, would be asking you a series of short questions focused on specific aspects of your identity and experiences. UT, under the whole personal statement aspect, would be really asking you for a very short essays, and they'll be giving you like a topic A. There'll be a topic A which will be given across that you'd really have to write about, which really focuses on your identity or really the environment that you are belonging from. So these are the differences of the platform and the personal statement. But what is the personal statement? As I said, your 10 activities or the 20 activities is the trailer to your application. This personal statement section is the heart of your application, where you're taking the personality that you are trying to depict by stating out 10 or 20 different activities. You're trying to give it a soul by explaining how does that activity really translate and make the person that you are today. When you really talk about football in the 10 activities, and you don't are not just talking about when you won, but you really want to be talking about how did football shape you as a person, as a character? Did it teach you leadership? Did it teach you teamwork? And how does that work really translate into your day-to-day life? That's what the personal statement is looking for. It's looking for how do the experiences, the most important experiences in your life, go ahead and define you as a person. And there are different ways how that's going to be answered. So Common App, as I've said, have got one essay, UC's four essays, you've got four short essays, and MIT's have got series of short questions. But the ideology while you're, preparing for this part of the application is going to remain the same. Now, moving across to supplementary essays, and this is something that we will be, obviously discussing in extreme detail today itself, the supplementary essays, the college specific essays itself. This is where your personal story starts to align with the school narrative. For instance, if your personal statement is about, let's say, passion for social impact through tech, you can be applying, for example, let's say the UC Berkeley's EECS program. For your supplementary essay, then should demonstrate how that fits with the university's offering and culture, right? So that's how they will be typically going across. Let's suppose if you're looking in terms of your UC application and how you'll be doing this through your four personal insight questions. When this type of essay, let's say, turns around and becomes a common application one going through Harvard, and you've spoken about you've participated in football, the example that I was giving in terms of the common application one. In here, you would try to write that the leadership that I spoke really directly connects with the Harvard kind of leadership and ethos. Right. The essay that you may also get across, I'll also be showing you a couple of examples, do ask you questions in that specific way. So once we move into that part, you'll be able to see that headline and you'll be able to understand how can I take that exact leadership concept that I've just spoken about in my personal statement and bring it to my common application essay. And as I've just explained, within your UCs, you would be selecting a specific question that speaks across on the one that aligns you through your four PIQs that I've just discussed within the personal statement section. UCs don't have any other specific essays, as you may normally have it at a Harvard application where you submit a personal statement and you submit specific essays as well. Within UCs, Both of them are merged into the same aspect. MIT can ask specific prompts about your community and what really excites you. So you do have a couple of, prompts that are around you as a person, as your experience, as your identity. And then you also do have these kind of prompts that what excites you, what kind of community that you do represent. And that's where you really try to attach yourself to that MIT ethos. Now, moving across to that UT Austin has those short questions, and you will be talking about leadership roles. You'll be talking about career goals, which really supplement your essay itself. So do remember, dependent on the platform, it will also depend, are you writing the essay or not. So as I've just said with the example, in cases of UCs, MITs, and Austin, they've just got specific questions that will depict those same information that you'd write for your essays in Common App. So again, it is under the same umbrella. It's just going to be divided into separate areas dependent on which application you're really looking out for. Now, lastly, within the whole documents that you do submit, letters of recommendation, a strong LOR should be very specific and extremely personal. It should be, in a way that if an admission officer looks into your whole application, puts it aside, covers your name on the letter of recommendation, should be still able to recognize who's this application for. Couple of differences in your common application, you just require to submit two letters of recommendation. MIT will ask you to submit one maths or science letter of recommendation and one humanities letter of recommendation. UT Austin only requires one letter, but submitting a second one, dependent on how strong we have already created the one for common application, can still be useful. It's not saying that you only need to submit one. Interestingly, this is a differentiation. UC schools really don't require or don't really look at letters of recommendation. So the UC application, as they normally it's put across, it's all through your own voice. The key dates that you see at the bottom, the early action, the early deadlines, that's your 1st of November deadline that comes across every year when you're in your grade 12. So approximately 20-25% of your grade 12 done. You're putting in your application for early action and early decision. And this is all this also includes a lot of deadlines for your MIT early application and your priority deadline when it's called for UT Austin. January 1st is the regular deadline that you'll be getting for all of your common application, and including a lot of your UCs would be happening within January itself. From Jan till April, you'll be waiting for your results, and post your results, typically come out. We then go across, while I'll be discussing in my counseling aspect what we do. We do help in visas and help you conclude on this part. So this is how you should be looking at applications from your side of the table. Before we just move into the aspect of the letters of recommendations and essays, this is to give you a quick view. How does an admission officer look at your application? So he puts 40% weightage onto your academics. That's your SAT score, your ACT score, either of those that you've submitted. Your predictive grades for 12th, do remember you don't have your grade 12 scores during application, and that makes your academic transcripts of 9 to 11th even that so more important, because remember your predictive grades are based on your 9 to 11 score. Along with your predictive 12th score, you also do submit your grades from 9 to 11. So you could just imagine how more important they've actually become. They're playing a factor in two aspects of this 40%. So make sure that you're trying to show a growth trajectory. Please don't worry for all of those kids that are not currently in your high 90s, that I have already spoiled my chances. They are looking for a growth trajectory across your ninth and 11th. They are important, but they're not important as absolute figures of saying 95% is important and 85 is not important, even though it's showing a growth story moving into your 90s at a later stage. So do remember, you do have that chance of growth and improvement throughout this time period. But your whole academics itself, unlike in India and unlike like Singapore, does not have 90% of weightage. It has 40%. 60% of this weightage are the activities that you do beyond school, right? The extracurriculars that you're going to be participating across on, be it academic, non-academic, the 10 activity list, the 20 activity list, right? The four things that you talk about in MIT, all of that is 30%. The next 30% are your different categories within personal statement, right? That can be your PIQs, that can be those small short questions that MIT asks, that can also be, your UT questions that you would be typically getting. So all of that personal statement and the essays and the letters of recommendations, which are largely based on this 30%, is the next part of this common application or the UC system. So overall, 60% of this journey are things that are beyond your school academics, things that can be used to deduce that what are you as a person? Do you show an, let's say, inclination towards leadership, an extremely important trait while you're applying for Harvard? Does your profile show innovativeness, impactfulness? That's for Stanford. Do you have an inclination towards social sciences and humanities? What we look at MIT. So how do you communicate all of that? You talk about things beyond your grades in maths and English and physics and chemistry. You talk about 10 activities and 20 activities and you define them on your application. How does that really define you as a personality? And that's how your overall application typically looks at. Now we will move into the actual part of our conversation, right? I'm sure the thing that everyone would be really waiting for, and specifically all of the kids and parents who have been, following me across this whole 4 weeks where we have gone topic by topic. We did that one extremely detailed session on personal statements. We did one extremely detailed on your SAT and ACT. So now the detail starts across on your essays. Many colleges, as you know, would be requiring supplementary essays. They're shorter essays that are unique to each school. And this is something very unique to your common application platform for the simple reason that your common application would be going to different universities. The common app essay slash personal statement goes to different universities. You can't use that personal statement to really individualize this application for, let's suppose, a Harvard, for a Cornell, or if you also want to put it across to, let's say, an institute as your University of Pennsylvania, you would really need your essays to come in and support you. Where that's that level, you'll be able to say that, here, this is my personality at the personal statement, and how that really translates into your university or your college, and why you're the perfect fit for the community is what you're trying to get done at these essay. They can be really specific programs that you're also interested in, and they also do a very specific essays for them as well. As we just get into the next slide, you'll be able to see that. Now, the other thing that we'll also be looking across within the final steps are the letters of recommendation, right? So these are written by your teachers, your mentors, and they provide an external perspective of your academic performance, character, and really potential. LORs are extremely powerful because they go on to confirm what you have written in your essays and application from a higher authority perspective. A strong letter of recommendation can really provide additional credibility to your story as well. You don't need certificates if your teacher is vouching for the participation in that area. It also highlights your strength and personal quality from someone who has seen you really grow firsthand. And it really lets the admission officer know from a very strong academic perspective, what are you as a person? In short, these college essays, sorry, 1 second. Just give me a second. Yeah. Yeah. In short, the college essays and letters of recommendation together help colleges get a real clear picture of who you are as a student, and more importantly, who you are as a person. These elements are not just about showcasing your achievements, they're really about telling a compelling, authentic story about your journey and your future. Now, let's just have a quick look at those various essays that I'm talking about. So, this is just an example of three very different kind of universities and very three different kind of essays that they put across. I'm not talking in terms of quality, it's just what kind of student that all three of them are looking for. And if you look at that Harvard one, right, top three things your roommate might like to know about you. Right? Remember that part when I was talking, giving that example initially, connecting that football story you spoke about in your on your 10 activity list that you play football for a school level. I'm not talking about one on international level. Participation. We move across, we look at the personal statement, and the personal statement goes on to really speak about the leadership that the student learned, teamwork that the student learned. Now, if the student is applying to Harvard, he looks at that essay question, top three things your roommate might like to know about you. I really bet I need to speak about leadership. I need to speak about teamwork. And again, those are the activities that very strongly attach to Harvard. If you look into Cornell University, they are one of the most simplest essays that you'll be getting. This is a very specific one, as I've also told you that if you're very decided on a field that you want to go for, you can also go ahead and select something directly related into your degree. So imagine a STEM student applying to Cornell. If you're unsure of what specific engineering field you would like to study, describe how your general interest in engineering most directly connects with Cornell engineering. Now, what is Cornell engineering? That's when the research comes in. That's when you need to sit and understand what kind of projects and research work that these universities are typically engaged across at. And then you would be answering all of these various questions across on Cornell engineering, and how you'd be giving that personal state that connection between your personal statement and essays. Then the other part, University of Chicago, it's a very different application that you'll normally see. Your essay is very different from the other one. Find X, the elusive goal of mathematics, but with no context. What is X, and how did prospective University of Chicago students find it? Right. So these are a couple of essays that you could typically look at. I'll just request if everyone could just have a quick look at it. I'll just be back. So I think you guys would have gone through all of those different kind of essays that you're seeing. And this is why I have put this across in this exact same kind of an order. With the last one that you're looking at, Find X, it is a very different kind of an essay. It really doesn't go across and ask you in a very direct frame that take your narrative and match it across to the College of Mind. The only different way that you have to look into these kind of essays is that this is the narrative or the backdrop of the story of the objective that still remains the same. Another essay that was again launched by University of Chicago around 2020, it spoke about that you're sailing across the tempestuous seas, 15th century BC. What if suddenly you fell off the edge of Earth? Again, the objective still remains the same. Take your narrative and match it across to the university that you are typically applying for. So this is a couple of examples of how you need to look across at these essays, how they are put across in the platform itself. Now we need to move in to the role of what role do these supplementary essays typically really talk about, right? What you need to show across. So firstly, you need to see these various specific points that you need to show across your fit. You need to be showing a certain aspect of personal growth. You need to highlight your academic interest, try to align with college values, display future aspirations, demonstrate intellectual curiosity, and very importantly, reinforce your application narrative. Now, what does all of this individually mean? Within show your fit, what we're typically aiming for, this is all about demonstrating why you are a great fit for the college. It's not about just showing good grades or good test scores. It's really about showing how your goals, your passion, and your interests very specifically align with the college offerings. You need to explain why this specific college is where you see yourself thriving. So that's the whole aspect behind show your fit. Now, then reflect on personal growth. Your college growth matters to colleges. This is your opportunity to discuss how your past challenges, experiences, and moments of self-reflection have really shaped into the person that you are today. Growth could mean, learning from failures, overcoming obstacles, or mastering new skills. Let the college see the person that you have become. Feel very relaxed by also talking about failures. You'll not be able to talk about growth until you do not show a hiccup. So do remember the part of reflective of personal growth. It's fine enough to show across if you have gone across, failed at an area, but have come back stronger. Try to highlight academic interest. This part is about showcasing your enthusiasm for academic programs at the college. What subjects or areas that you're really passionate about? How will this college really help you further your academic goals itself? Be specific about the programs or research opportunities that really excite you. This helps the college to understand how you'll be thriving in their academic environment. Moving on to the third point, align to college values. College want to know if your values align with theirs. Every school has its mission, its culture, and its real focus area. Whether it's social justice or innovation or community building, or the ones that I spoke about, with Harvard being in leadership and MIT having that inclination towards humanities and social sciences. All of these aspects just show that you're not just a student, but someone who's willing to contribute meaningfully to their overall community and ethos. And it's an extremely important part within this whole supplementary essay part. Now, beyond that, you need to display future aspirations as well. Talk about your career goals and how the college will really help you achieve them. Colleges want to know what resources of theirs will really help you get closer to your own actual aspirations. Whether you're aiming for a specific profession, or let's say you have broader ambitions, let them know about those how their programs can go ahead and shape your future. The other thing that you should be looking across, showcase leadership and initiative. Leadership isn't about, being the president of a club. It's about taking initiative, whether in school, extracurriculars, or personal projects. So what's this whole thing about? There's a difference between institutional leadership and innovative leadership. With the president of a club, that's where you're an institutional leadership. You started the club, that's innovative leadership. Innovative leadership is what they're looking for. The initiatives are what they're looking for. If you've shown leadership, and remember, no matter how big or small it is, highlight it. Colleges really value students who like to take charge and make something happen or create a change around the areas that they're also trying to show, concern and change for. Now, beyond showcasing your leadership and initiative, one of the last things, demonstrate intellectual curiosity. This is your chance to show how eager you are to learn, whether through independent projects or through your own interest or through extra learning. Demonstrate that you have an intellectual curiosity that goes really beyond classroom. Colleges want students who will actively engage in their academic community, right? That's the actual purpose of it all. Now, beyond looking at the roles of supplementary essays, let's move into another point, which is now crafting a compelling supplementary essay. So I'll give you quick 3 points that you could look at in very much of a pyramid kind of a way, starting from the top and going down and creating that foundation in the right kind of a way. So this is how you should be largely looking across at it. So research the college thoroughly would be one of my initial instructions that I'd be giving across to you. Let's begin with one of the most critical steps when crafting a compelling essay, which is the one that I just stated. Understand the college is offering. Before you even begin writing your essay, go into the college's website, research its academic programs, the professors who teach it, research opportunities available, and student organizations. You're aiming for a top institute, find that professor on LinkedIn. Try to see what are the things that he's really talking about. What are the LinkedIn profile of that college speaking about? What are the media newses that are coming out are really talking about? The more you know about the college, what the college offers, the more specific you can really create your essay. Think about why this college specifically appeals to you in terms of what you want to study and how that academic environment would be benefiting you. Try mentioning specific professors and programs. Now that you're really, have explored the offering, it's time that you get specific. If there are particular professors who work and that really resonate with you, try to mention them. Or maybe a specific academic program itself that may align with your interest. So just to put an example there, Maths 55, the most difficult course around mathematics at Harvard. If you're a student around mathematics, around STEM, why not just speak about the course and say how you have understood about the course and how do you think that could come across and add value to the overall profile that you're trying to create. This will show the admissions team that you have done your homework and that you're genuinely interested in that academic environment and not just their prestige. Also, try to identify the college values. Every college has a mission, and as I've also mentioned at the back, and its values are embedded into everything they do, from teaching to student activities. Does the student emphasize on innovation becomes then a question. Does it emphasize on leadership, diversity? Does it think on community involvement? Connect these values then to your own. Showcase how you embody or aspire to embody those principles within your own life. This will help admissions team to see that you're a perfect fit for the college itself. Now, another thing that you should be then looking at, try to stay authentic and true to your own voice. Now, how do you actually do this? Be honest and genuine. Don't try to sound like someone else. Don't look at someone else's application in figuratively saying in terms of asking someone who has gone through the process and try to mimic that kind of an essay. Don't try to do that. The college wants to hear your own real voice, not a generic essay written in a full tone, and that sounds very, sounds like almost every other applicant. That's when, sorry, that's when your own aspect should be coming out quite actively. So be very honest in your own writing itself. And when you share your story, make sure it feels like it's coming from you. This is where your personality should really shine out. Another thing, avoid cliches. We have all read all of those typical, essays within college essays, and admission officers really have seen them 1,000 times. Don't write it in a way that makes the admission officer think, or I mean, I'm sorry to rephrase that. Don't write it in a way that you think that this is what the admission officer wants to hear. You need to be writing it in a very specific manner that how that makes you look extremely real. Talk about, what has actually important to you and why is it actually important to you. Stay away from overused phrases that lack originality. This is your opportunity to make an impact with your own unique perspective. Share your personal stories. That's also a very important aspect. This really brings out your own personal stories, including real specific experiences, is very crucial in showcasing who you are. Don't be vague. Show as many as anecdotes from your life and demonstrate how you have grown, what you have learned, and how you've developed your academic interest. These personal stories will not only make your essay more memorable, but will also give the admissions committee a deeper understanding of who you are as a person. Make the third point that I'll then put across, that make a clear connection to your college. And how do you do that? You need to be linking your experiences to the college culture itself. In your essay, try to explain how does your background and essays, how your own background and experiences and aspirations really go ahead and align with college culture. This is your opportunity to show how you will thrive within their community. Highlight the aspects of the college that that really stand out for you, whether it's about research programs, academic environment, or campus life. Try to show how these aspects resonate with your own goal and your own background, and also try to show how you'll be going across and contributing to that overall college. How does your qualities come across and contribute to the ethos and really increase it in that specific way as they're looking across it. So these are, the most important things that you need to be really looking for when you would be going ahead and really crafting your own personal statement. I just want to take a 30-second break. I'll have a glass of water. I've just been speaking for the last 45 minutes. Just give me a second. Yeah, sorry for that disturbance. Right. Now we're going to be moving across to the next part of our conversation, which is how do you really go on to align your story with college values. The last part, we have really spoken in detail that you need to align these college values and your story. But how is that actually step taken is going to now become the more four things that we'll be typically looking across. Just give me a second. Yeah. Now you can see the aspect on you can see the slide on your screen now. We'll first start across with connect your experiences to the college value. So let's kick off by discussing the first key step in writing your supplementary essays, understanding the college core values. Every college, as I've just said, would be having its own aspects. So if you'd be looking at Harvard, you'd be really trying to emphasize leadership, community impact, and intellectual engagement. On the other hand, Stanford would be celebrating innovation, entrepreneurship, and solving problems. So now what you need to do, you need to go back and try to understand through your own experiences, where can you really stand up and say, okay, this is where I had learned in terms of leadership, or this is that part where I had understood in terms of impact and innovativeness. So try to make that connection. The other thing that you'd be then moving across, demonstrate how you would be contributing to the college. So let's suppose you had started various clubs, various initiatives back in your college years. How do they go across and be part of the various life plans that you're seeing within the college itself? You would then also look at how would you be aligning that to your own future aspirations. So at that stage, also try to speak in those terms that over the last years, these are the kind of projects, these are the kind of activities that have spun out of the college that you're typically looking for. So try to also explain at that stage from your own experiences that this is what I had done in terms of starting a club within your school, starting a activity with the community, and how that has actually gone ahead and created a result for itself. So all of these four values that I was just saying need to be connected into your own personal experiences is going to be one of those core aspects around your essays. Now we'll be moving across to the letters of recommendation. So let's really begin with first the essential step that how are you going to be understanding that what these letters of recommendation typically really represent. Now, a letter of recommendation is that document that would be taking the application or the personality that you have just gone on to describe within the essays and within your within the personal statement and the 10 activities, and also be described in a very authentic manner through a third person view. And that's where we really talk about the authenticity behind the letters of recommendation. So what makes it a strong letter of recommendation is how personal is that application going across, or how personal is that letter of recommendation coming across to that whole application itself. And that's that whole part of depth. Now, to create that depth, you need a very strong relationship between your professor, the teacher that would be giving you that letter of recommendation itself, which requires years of work. It requires years of giving information back and forth. It also requires you to take feedback and review in very cyclical manners. So by the time those letters of recommendation do come across as a requirement, they do go and touch enough depth in it. Now, it also does give an insight to your academic and personal growth. A lot of time teachers do speak about those aspects that through the years they have seen the student having a challenge in a specific area, having a challenge within mathematics, but then going across and eventually coming out stronger on the other side is a very important part that really creates that strong kind of letter of recommendation. Now, how do you go ahead and achieve the same? You would want to share across these stories to your professors and your teachers from where you're looking for those letters of recommendation. And that's that part where, I typically do put across by saying that this whole experience of creating the letter of recommendation itself is a long process. And obviously, in the next slide that we'll be getting into, the four steps that I'll be giving you across, we'll be really defining that part that I'm saying it takes some time for you to create this kind of relationship, or it takes some time for you to share across this kind of information. Now, overall, it also does join your whole application as a single narrative. So it will take all of those 10 activities, the personal statement and the essays, and connect those activities to the letter of recommendation as a verifying document itself. So it will be there to join those applications itself, to give a third voice narrative to the story itself becomes that objective. And lastly, in-depth involvement within academics and subjects is also a very strong point that you need to be speaking across and putting across to your teachers so they can have that, involved within that letter of of recommendation. Now, consistently, I did say while showing you across what creates a strong letter of recommendation is constantly saying that this is what you need to communicate to your teacher. This is how you need your teacher needs to know about you. So largely the question that would be there in a lot of students' mind and a lot of parents' mind is how do you actually go ahead and do what I'm saying by giving that teacher that kind of a thought process. So if you see, I have first started with the first two steps, step one, step two. Firstly, it started across with identifying the kind of teachers that you would be liking to use for this whole letter of recommendation. Now, this step begins as early as possible. Largely, you will be only talking from grade 9 itself because majority of the platform will be only taking a letter of recommendation if it is from a high school professor. The first thing that you need to really do is align it with your intended major. It's one of the most important things that you have done after you've seen the grade in which you're starting. Choose those teachers whose subjects align with the major that you're typically interested in or wanting to pursue. For example, if you're really aiming for a career in engineering, look at teachers who are specializing or teaching your subjects as mathematics, as physics, and computer sciences. They will be able to speak directly about your strengths on the academic potential on that specific area that you're looking for. Now, next, look for teachers who also show interest in mentoring their students. Now, these teachers normally go beyond the classroom and provide really good in-depth insights into your academic and personal development. They are invested in your growth story. So they'll be really those parts that I was saying that they'll be really the ones that could go speak about how you have grown ahead from the last failure that you may have typically faced. Lastly, prioritize your teachers who can provide in-depth insight in both your academic performances and personal growth. So that's step number one. While you're identifying your teachers, do look into these three parts, that which are the teachers that would be willing to go into in-depth, which are the ones that you'll be able to communicate and bring in that in-depth insight. And at the same time, also do see if you have already decided on the major that you're applying for, how well do they align to that. Second, establish relationships, which is all about getting in connect with the teacher, having a constant line of communication moving back and forth. It's very essential to engage with your tuition with your teachers actively from early years. So even if you're a student in grade 9th and 10th, you should start doing this extremely actively. Start by being, engaging with the professor in the class itself, and then moving it across to extracurricular discussions. Participate in class discussions. Beyond class discussions, the topic that you have just gone into, go ask the teacher for a recommendation for a documentary that you could be watching, that you could be looking on that topic itself. Once you go through it, make sure that you also give a proper feedback so the teacher understands that you are definitely valuing the recommendations that are coming. Whenever you're participating in let's say in a course or in a competition beyond the scope of that teacher, make sure that you have given information of that to the teacher through ways of asking for recommendations in that area, and that will constantly create the kind of relationship that will be very crucial for these applications. Now, moving across to the next slide, which is moving to step 3, collecting ongoing feedbacks. Now, moving into this step will focus you on collecting these kind of feedbacks right from grade 10 to grade 11 and 12. These are like your formative years where you would want to strengthen your connection between your teachers and ensure that they're very well aware of your progress. One way to do this is through your informal check-ins. Regularly check in with your teacher and try to get a feedback on the academic progress or overall profile progress that they have seen in you. What this will help you understand is before you actually get into the year of your application and ask for the letter of recommendation itself, you're very sure that which kind of teacher is describing you in which specific manner. So at the end of the day, you'd be having a couple of feedbacks across all 5 6 teachers, and you may be able to cherry pick that right kind of a teacher that you should be going for that letter of recommendation. Do also remember, this ongoing feedback is not a document used on the common application itself. It is only subtly building narrative in the teacher's mind. The real letter of recommendation would be submitted directly on the common application link. You will not be gone through it. So the safe way is just to prepare, work with the professor, Ask them for feedbacks. You can't ask them to give you a copy of the letter of recommendation and ask them to make changes. So what you could do is start preparing early, start taking, let's say mock letters of recommendations from the teacher in the way of calling it ongoing feedback. So eventually you'll be very sure which is the teacher that you need to be selecting. Now, step four, ensuring a strong narrative. At this stage, it is important to continue providing updates to your teachers about your achievements, about your aspirations, extracurricular activities. By keeping your teachers informed, you really ensure that you have that they have a very comprehensive view of your story, about your growth, and both academically and personally. Finally, step number five should be the very simple one, that is, finalizing and having those letter of recommendations submitted, in which you would be providing a link to the teacher itself who would be using it to submit your letter of recommendation. So, in closing, building a strong relationship with your teachers throughout high school is crucial for obtaining a really compelling letter of recommendation. Start by identifying the right teachers, engage with them actively, keep them updated on your progress, and as you reach grade 11 to 12, ensure that your narrative is very strongly going across, and try to request as many as feedbacks, or as you could also look at as mock letters of recommendations. By following these steps, you'll ensure that your letter of recommendation will end up truly reflecting who you have tried to depict throughout your application in the best possible way. So that's the last part of the Common App components that I wanted to discuss across with you. We will now move into the final steps of the whole Common Application series, which I had said in terms of deciding your timelines and looking at how you would be, typically applying moving from grade 11 to 12. So the timeline that you will now see on your screen, it's largely for a student who's currently in grade 11 and will work right through moving into grade 12. If you've come in as a student in grade 12, we just have to evaluate what activities that you've already done and how we can make sure that these things can be done in the time that is available as of now. So let's start firstly with a student who's currently in grade 11. One of the key milestones would be to start prep for your December SAT. Let's begin discussing this most critical milestone for a student in grade 11, which is around SAT. You'll want to have a structured preparation of SAT right from May and to June. That's when you need to start across. Begin with the diagnostic test to pinpoint your strengths and weaknesses and focus on those key areas, for example, within maths, within reading comprehensions or writing. Utilize as much as online resources, the SAT prep books, or even consider a tutor if needed. Time management and test taking strategies should be practiced consistently. And don't forget about mock tests at all. Try to do as many as possible. Within Let's Unbound, we do give students packages of 20 mock tests where where your final SAT itself just pretty much feels like the 21st mock. We really go to lengths in trying to really immaculate or try to really copy that way of examining that happens onto the SAT exam itself. Now, beyond that, you need to engage in your letters of recommendation building, focus on it. At this point, you should start identifying which are the teachers that align with your intended major. You have done your subject selections. These teachers should be able to speak about both your academic and performance and really a personal growth itself. And also do remember, a lot of times teachers do change after 10th. So your 11th and 12th years do become extremely important at that level. Then finalize the activities list. So this list is really vital for your application, and this is what you should be really focusing across once you've looked at the kind of teachers that you'll be going through, and your activity list is the thing that would be really blooming on from that point and going on and becoming your personal statement. And those are the activities that would be largely used again in your essays, and those are the activities that you need to be really speaking in terms of letters of recommendations, the feedback sessions that I've just spoken across on. So the moment you have finalized your letters of recommendations, who are they coming from? One of the most important things that you then need to look across is, as I've just said, finalize the activities list. Moving on to early research into your colleges, if you're really looking at that early decision or early application cycle, You need to make sure that within 11th itself, you have started to research the kind of colleges that you're applying for. And do remember, you'll have to research the ethos that the college is looking for, the narrative that this college really stands for, and how does that really match with your own story and your own background. So getting into this as early as possible is a very strong recommendation from my side and will really help you in that right kind of growth pattern. Now, lastly, start your personal statement creation as well. This is one document that does gets delayed till its last days, and we normally do think we'll be doing this in its grade 12. On the other side, I've also worked with students who have started to, get them to make their personal statement as early as grade 9 itself. So early preparation in these areas, your SAT prep, your LOR engagement, and all of these activities, starting them across as early within grade 11 is the right kind of way that you would be moving across on. Now, moving to grade 12, the same student, within that November, within December, as you would be going through your SAT and all of that getting completed, your early time would be to be looking at your early action and early decision application. So as soon as you get there, make sure that you have really cherry picked which are the applications that are going there. It's a very difficult decision itself. Do remember, an early decision is a single application that you do get. It's like a silver bullet, and if you do not end up using it in the right way, you may be in a situation that you have applied to a college which is very low beyond the ranking that you may be applying for. And if that college does accept you, you cannot accept any other application. So, one of those key things within grade 12, as soon as it starts, it is to look across in these various aspects. And then, obviously, once you move that across, your December, January is your regular decision application, and from that point onwards, it is just about looking at the results that you're getting. And we do help the students eventually in selecting of colleges and eventually helping them with the visa work itself. So that's the overall timeline that we are talking across on. Now, our approach, how this approach has been typically formulated, what we had initially realized that majority of the students have just the input of, let's say, understanding a little bit of personality, understanding a little bit of the interest, but then 93% of the students actually just know seven career options. And they then really struggle with this whole complex university applications because A, the choice set of careers that they're looking at is too shallow. You remember the part when I said declaration of majors is not the primary concern. Thus, this university selection doesn't really just run because this is the career that you want to do. So, thus, you're applying to this institute. It goes much more beyond it. So, how do we typically help a student do all of this? We would start with a psychometric test, understand the students' narrative, and then really we use psychometric tests for those students who join us early in grade 8, grade 9. The moment you're coming across to me in grade 12, we do see a lot of activities being done. We don't really suggest a student to really scrap all of the activities that they've already done and start completely afresh. So that psychometric test, yet again, it's a very strong indicator, even in terms of grade 12, the way we use it is just to make sure that we're having the right kind of narratives come across on that personal statement as well, looking at the results that those psychometric tests have generated. We then give you complete support in college counseling, help you understand which colleges, which universities, which narratives match you. So instead of you going and researching all different colleges and all different universities and narratives, we will bring this information to you. We will help you understand what your narrative is and then try to create a match behind it. And at that stage, we will also help you as it goes in profile and skill building, looking in the narratives, looking at the universities that you're applying for, what is the gap and how can we help you fulfill it. Lastly, we then move into your sorry, second, lastly, we then move into your application and admissions guidance, in which we'll help you then get all of that application on a paper and conclude this off with your visa and say stay assistance in within USA or the colleges that you're applying for. So eventually, from the input of understanding the student to the output of getting him admitted into a specific university and program. Right. Now, this is just to show you the timeline in which we typically work across at. Students coming into in grade 9, grade 10, we want to work on their candidacy, we want to work on their narrative, understand what interests they have, make them join clubs, make them go do courses, and then we eventually move across to that personal statement work and that follow-up work that then comes across at every 6 months, where we make the student rewrite the personal statement consistently. We then also move across to the letter of recommendation part that I was explaining you, ask them for as consistent feedback. So your whole grade ninth and 10th is about doing different programs, joining courses, joining clubs, working on personal statement, working on your letters of recommendation. So by the time that you hit grade 11, we help you select your subject choices. We try to see are we moving towards an indicative major, decide on your final capstone projects within grade 11, that part that I was anyways talking about. And 11th, you do end up giving your first SAT attempt around November, December. And eventually, the last personal draft should be created, the final draft should be created between January to April of your grade 12 year, in a way that you have been working on it since grade 9 itself. At that stage, beyond your April and May, you start initiating your college essays, right? So you'll be selecting your universities from April to May itself, because and May is one of those ideal months where you should start looking in your number, the colleges that you're applying for, because majority of the essays prompts are launched and you can start selecting from them. And this is that time from, I guess, in the next 2 months, you should be closing in on of the activities that you have decided across the 10 of the Common App or the 20 of the UCs. And from this point onwards, focus on closing on your essays, focus on closing on the letters of recommendation. So by the time you hit October, your essays, your applications should all be ready for submission on the 1st of November deadline, and your then regular application deadlines hit by 1st of January. Lastly, just to showcase all of the activity that we do in three different pillars, one being academics and test prep, the other being profile building, and lastly, within admission prep itself, right? So within academic test prep, we provide you support within SAT, within APs, and your overall school scores. And at the same time, within profile building, all of the activities that are required to create your extracurriculars, we do typically help. And within admission prep, your essays, your personal statement, all of that. So you could really look at this as a one-stop solution for all of your requirements within admissions itself. This is just to give you a quick view of a student that had, journeyed through us and had gotten admitted into Dartmouth, a strong SAT score being complemented with, an essay competition, having an aspect within basketball as well. He has founded an NGO club and a talented solo singer and has performed at charity events. Moving across to another example of a student that we got admitted into Rice University. Again, different kind of activities, a complete profile and personality that you could typically look across at. Now, as we do end all of our sessions by sharing resources, right? So you'll be able to look at a lot of master classes sessions and recordings that we also do have on YouTube, and we do conduct one every weekend. And as you'd be knowing, for the last 3 to 4 weeks, we have been just talking in detail about common application. The next weekend, we have been thinking about doing a complete session on global competitions, in which we'll be covering Blue Ocean, and we'll be also covering across on Diamond Challenge. So these are two competitions that we'll be discussing in quite detail in our next session that we'll be conducting. At the same time, you'll be able to get a lot of good information on admissions itself by scanning the QR code at the bottom of your screen and being part of these newsletters that we typically do launch across. You could also go ahead and subscribe for them. At the same time, you could join our podcast channel as well and our WhatsApp channel as well, using the two QR codes at the bottom. Lastly, we do always give out a SAT diagnostic test opportunity. So all of the kids that are currently in grade 11 and are thinking across and getting in through their SAT, do scan this QR code and register for a SAT diagnostic itself. Lastly, if you guys do believe that you have gotten value through the session and would like to convert this into a one-on-one session itself, where I could give you an individual understanding about what are the kind of work that you need to do, just do use this QR code on your screen now to register for the same. Lastly, I will just ask you to just drop in your questions on the chat section now, that I may be able to use to answer a couple of questions. So it is now the live and question and A session. So I do realize we have gone over our deadline by 13 minutes, but if there are any pressing questions that you guys would like to put across to me, you could just use this next 5-minute window opportunity. Right, so I'm just stopping the share. If there are no questions, I'm not seeing anything in the chat section itself. So I will be concluding the session. But don't worry, if you still want to have a personal one-on-one session itself, We'll also be contacting everyone and you'd be able to register it at that stage. So thank you for attending the session today. I hope you guys found it valuable.